You know the drill. Another day, another player preview. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Jonathan Schoop as well as the news and notes from the last couple of days of spring. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. You know, I realized in my cold open, I said from the last couple of days of spring, and out of context, that makes literally no sense because I'm pretty sure it's not spring. I could be making myself look really dumb right now, but I'm pretty sure it's still winter. And that just like any other context other than baseball fandom, that would make no sense for me to just be like, let's talk about the news and notes from the last couple of days of spring. And oh, by the way, it's winter. So I appreciate y'all for allowing me to to talk like that, and you know, y'all get it, y'all know ball. Okay, let's talk about the news and notes from camp. Also, the reason why we are talking about Jonathan Schoop today is because he has been arguably one of the biggest news stories from the last couple of days of camp. He lost a ton of weight, and it was intentional, so good for him. And it's something that when he was asked about it, he just said that he felt like heading into this point in his career with what he has left and what he wants to accomplish still in his career, he thought it would be better for him to lose some weight, better for his mind and body as he hits that very crucial like early mid 30s point. Like a lot of people, that's where they either decline or that's where they find something else or find not like a tip or trick, like it's way more complicated than that, but just continue success and are able to find maybe another niche and a reason to stick around on a major league roster and get that, that one more contract mentality is, I guess, my biggest point. So I wish him the best. I'm very happy for him. Again, that's the pictures are coming out of him at camp and in the infield and everything, and he does look a lot slimmer and leaner. So awesome to see in that regard. I don't know. I mean, time will only tell if it translates to actual success on the field for sure, but very nice to see at least. So good for him. And that is why we're going with him today. You know, in the media, it's an old trick. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Jonathan Schoop's name is the biggest amongst the team right now. So we're going to talk about Jonathan Schoop today. Let's talk about the other news and notes. That's how we're going to format a lot of these going forward. Well, the first segment-ish will be about the biggest news and notes from camp. And then the remainder of the show will be the player preview for the day. Cool. So other news and notes, Spencer Turnbull. I think that's one of the bigger ones as well. He's throwing bullpen sessions, doesn't appear to have any limitations. We are also due for a injury update, I think tomorrow. Well, today, maybe as you're listening to this, actually. On Tuesday, I believe we are due for an injury update from the team and from the PR department. So hopefully we can get our hands on that and see if there's been some progress made from the last one, which was about a week ago. But in regards to Turnbull, it looks like there's no restrictions, no anything. He's already out there throwing bullpens. Scott Harris had some media availability in which he said, quote, the amount of contrast he can create with his pitch shapes is unique, end quote. Obviously talking about Turnbull there. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot. I'm pumped just to see Spencer Turnbull play for my baseball team. This is someone that when he was in the lower level of the minors that like I really hung my hat on, was like, this dude, his stuff is so nasty. And he moved up prospect rankings a little bit. He was top 10 by the time he was promoted within the organization for sure. But I think he was somewhat overlooked just because the team was so bad in that 2018, 2019 era. And so finally, just getting him back, I haven't gotten the privilege to really cover a ton of Spencer Turnbull starts. Like The injury didn't happen. It happened around when I took over. So I'm very, very pumped. I'm very excited to finally see some consistent Red Bull back on my screen, man. And Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic actually reported that his velocity in his bullpens was already back to like 93, 94 miles an hour, which is what his average fastball velo was pre TJ. And every year we have the, first televised spring training game. Somebody's velocity is like 4 miles an hour lower than we're used to, and everybody freaks out. And we have to have the conversation of like, hey, these dudes have to build their arm strength and their velocity back up. That's what spring training is for. Don't worry about it. And we might not even have to have that conversation with Turnbull. So if that is true and he's already up, pushing mid 90s already, coming off TJ before even gameplay has started, I think, that's awesome news, great news. So I'm very, very pumped for Turnbull. Let's talk about Miguel Cabrera. That is someone that had media availability on Monday as well. He says he just wants to stay healthy and enjoy the moment of the season. That's what all of us should expect, or not even expect. That's what all of us should want for him as well. I don't have any expectations production wise for Miguel Cabrera this season. And I don't think you should either. I don't think anyone should be going into the season at this point in 2023 and be like, oh, well, if we got 10 or 15 homers from Miguel, or if we got, a 700 OPS from Miguel, or, if we got this amount of RBIs, just let it go. Like, he's not going to play too terribly much. This is the last year. He's definitely like, there's no future plans. Like, he's not going to be on the roster going forward. This is it. So I don't really care about like, oh, what shape is he in? Is he in the best shape of his life? What about, did he lose some weight to relieve some of the pressure on his knees, like his hip and whatever? Like, I don't even care anymore. I just want what he said he wants. That's what I want too. It's no disrespect to him that the fact that I'm saying I'm not going to put any expectations on him. And again, we'll talk about him more in depth during his player preview. But like, I'm so like, this is it. This is it. So I don't really care about the reports, and like how many, is he in good enough shape to play 2/3 of the season? He won't play 2/3 of the season. Like, he's not. I don't think he's going to play very much. I want what he said he wants, which is to stay healthy and enjoy the moment. Me too, big fella. Enjoy your farewell tour. You more than deserve it, and stay as healthy as you can. That's pretty much where I'm at too. Also worth noting, in my opinion, the team did an entire drill for like a while. I think this was 2 days ago now. Just just practicing tagging with the bigger bases, which I didn't even think about in the offseason when they announced that tagging would be different, but it is going to be. The base runner is going to have a lot of more angles to try to reach the base. There's going to be a lot more strategies when sliding. So to see Alan Trammell and Javi Baez were kind of leading the charge. Javi, say what you will about Javi Baez, objectively one of the best, if not the best, tagger in the sport, which I know is like not worth any war or anything, but it is worth noting that. So him and Tram kind of led the charge and were apparently kind of the forefront of some drills involving tagging and how they're going to do that this year. And look, say what you will about AJ Hinch too. I know some people just will never forgive him and will always hate him, and that's fine. But an AJ Hinch led team is always going to know the rules. That, like I said during our rule change discussion episode a couple of weeks ago, this dude reads the rule book cover to cover like every offseason. Like he will know all the rules and will know how to go around some of them legally still and whatnot. Well, okay, haha, like let's make the joke about going around the rules illegally too. But for real, like this is a dude, like his teams are going to be prepped for any and all rule changes that are applied to baseball and the rules that are already in place. So it does not surprise me, but something that I thought was worth talking about as well. Lastly, before we head into break here, Colt Keith showed up to camp, which some people were like, where's Colt Keith? Well, he's here. He took BP. He looked really good. I think not too much to say. I'm not going to analyze his swing or anything in his first batting practice of the season, of the calendar year, but looked really solid, and I'm just super pumped that he's here. I'm very, very excited for Colt Keith. One of, on the offensive side of the ball especially, maybe the most hyped prospect in the organization for as far as bats go. And I'm really excited for him to be with the big dogs for the spring. And I'm pumped to see what he can do. So glad that he's at camp and doing well. We're going to talk about one more Scott Harris comment just really quickly. Okay. And then let's go to break first. And then we'll talk about the Harris comment. And then we'll talk about Jonathan Schoop. Okay. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, you've got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, etc. I'm not sure how Built does it. I really don't. But these are candy bars that have amazing macros. They're amazing. They're healthy. Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. We've been talking about for years how you can order Built at Built.com. You still can, but you also can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Order on Built.com or go to your local Walmart, pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, etc. Or go to Sam's Club, grab a 13-bar box, brownie, churro, etc. They are the best, and you can get them at Walmart and Sam's Club now. Or again, it's still at Built.com. However you choose, just get your hands on some Built Bars today. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. For your next listen, check on the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So let's talk about Scott Harris. He had some media availability in this one. I'm so tired of talking about this. I really am. And the only reason we're even talking about it is because there was a lot of takes flying around on Twitter and online, and people just there was a large reaction to these comments. And so I feel the need to bring it up again, but I'm really tired of it. And we've talked about it on this show for months now. So if you've been a frequent listener, I appreciate you greatly. And this conversation will not be news to your ears. He basically he was asked again about not bringing in top end free agents. And like, I'm so over it. That's my biggest takeaway. His quote is, I didn't think it made sense for us to invest significant at-bats in veteran players who will not be a part of the team beyond, say, 2023. End quote. He wanted young and controllable players to add, young and controllable bats. Again, we've been talking about that for ages at this point. And that has not been a secret. This is not even the first time that he said that. But yet, every single time he makes a comment about it, there's a huge reaction to it. So I keep having to bring it up. I'm done with the offseason. My focus is forward. I'm looking at what we actually have in camp, not what we don't have in camp. I'm ready to actually talk about the game on the field and not talk about the moves we didn't even make. We're not even talking about the moves we did make at this point. Because again, you're not actually mad at bringing in Cesar Hernandez, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not trying to pick on Cesar specifically. I like the pickup, but that's my point. You're not actually mad at that. That is depth. Depth is good. Depth is healthy. Depth is vital. You're mad that they didn't add top end talent. So this belief that, like we brought in Cesar Hernandez instead of like Carlos Correa is preposterous. There's no correlation there. One is a depth signing. One is a top end free agent. Do you blame Harris? Do you blame ownership? Is it a penny pinching thing? I don't know. I'm not sitting in there. I'm so done talking about it. I want to talk about what we actually do have. What are we going to be in August? And we're just going to be like, oh, well, I really wish we brought in Brian Anderson to play third for this team that's 15 games under 500. Like, I'm so over it. Truly. As you can tell, I've said that a million times too. So I have to bring it up because he did make a comment about it and it did get a big reaction, but that's the end of it. Okay. So let's just get on to Jonathan Schoop. The rest of the show will all be about Jonathan Schoop and his expectations for this upcoming season. And let's start with his previous season. I guess that is the easiest and probably best place to start for unfortunate reasons. Last year was not great for Scopey. And it's the frustrating part of it for me. And I said this a couple of times during games last season was Like, if he was even a league average hitter, if he was even a slightly below average league average hitter, he would have had like a 3.5, even like if he was a decent hitter, like 4-win season because of how incredible he was defensively. So like that's what made it so frustrating for me. Was like, oh my, he had a 1.5 WAR, which is he had one of the worst offensive seasons I've ever seen from a regular everyday player, and he still had a 1.5 win season according to Fangraphs because that's how good he was defensively. So very frustrating year for Scopey for a lot of reasons. As we said at the top of the show, his name is in the headlines the last couple of days because he lost a lot of weight. Let's talk about the numbers from last year. He had a 202 batting average, a 239 on base percentage, and a 322 slug. That's a 561 OPS for a dude that played in 131 games. He had over 500 plate appearances and had an OPS under 570. That is absolutely brutal. 3.7% walk rate, 21% K rate, a 121 ISO. That's kind of similar to makes sense given the slugging percentage. And yeah, like I said, 1.5 win season. So when comparing his 2022 to his 2021, there are a few things that stand out. First off, the batting average obviously plummeted. Everything plummeted. And like that's the thing. There's not going to be, I know for a lot of these guys, I've had like cool, like super deep analytics about, like this is something that this person was really good at and this was something they were bad at. And oh, if they can do this season, maybe they can take another step forward. There is really no stat like that this year because it was just all a huge step back for Scope. Just across the board, it was just bad at the plate. And so there isn't some outlier and some underlying stat that you can point to and be like, well, if he can, this adjustment, it really is just forget that last season even happened and just be 2021 version of yourself again. And like, I know that that's not good analysis and that's what like my job is. And I totally get that, but that's the extent of it. There is no crazy analytical breakthrough here. And it wasn't like there was just one thing he was really bad at, and that's what caused it. It was just across the board a massive struggle for him. Again, when comparing 2021 to 2022, I like to look at the walk rate and the K rate. His K rate in 2021 was under 20%. It's the only season his entire career that he's had a sub 20% K rate. If we can even get back to that, it was only 21% last year. It's not like he was striking out like crazy. But if we can get back to that, that'd be good. And more importantly, he had a 5.5% walk rate in 2021. That is a career high, comfortably. Well, he had a 5.2% in 2017, I guess. So maybe not comfortably, but those are kind of the two outliers. Everything besides that is from 3.5 to 4.5%. So really, really solid in comparison. Again, I'm not trying to make 5.5 walk rate sound like it's like Justin Henry Malloy minor league numbers, right? But in comparison to what we're used to from Scope, that was really solid. And so seeing both of those in the same year, a career low in K percentage and a career high in walk percentage, along with a 280 batting average and 22 homers, 2021 rocked. And so I'm not asking for an exact replica of what he did at the plate in 2021, but if we can just get that walk rate back up to, even if it's just under 5%, I will take it. If we can get that K rate just back to being around 20%, I will take it. If we can get that batting average, just what's his career mark? 255. I will take it in a heartbeat. If we look at his home run totals outside of 2020, because that was the COVID year, 25, 32, 21, 23, 22, and then last year, 11. If we can get back up to getting above 20 homers, which he's done, again, every year of his career outside of the COVID season since 2015. So if we can get that back, I'm not asking for career highs. I'm not asking for, again, like a big breakthrough or, oh, like if you just make this small adjustment, the whole world's going to open up for you. This dude's been around the block. He's been in the league for a decade at this point. He has the most homers hit of any second baseman since like 2016 or 17. Like he knows how to hit. Last year was just brutal. Put it behind you, have short-term memory, and go out and have long-term memory and remember the hitter that you were before that. That's really all I can say at this point. Okay? Let's talk about his role on the team because I think that's the biggest storyline, honestly. I think the numbers, they will be better. It's impossible for them to be worse. Will they be as good as they were in 2021 or at like peak Jonathan Schoop? Probably not. This dude was almost a 5-win player at one point in his prime. But I fully expect them to be better than last season. They'll be somewhere in between those two. And I think the role for him and the ramifications of what happens if he does well is a far more important conversation for his player preview than maybe the stats and analytics of a lot of other players. Okay, so let's talk about that right after I tell y'all about our friends over at FanDuel. We are really excited for our new sportsbook partner because they're America's #1 sportsbook. It is FanDuel. It's the midway point of the NBA season, so it's the perfect time to download FanDuel. New customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. And then you can bet on everything from the money line, point scores, three-pointers drained in basketball, etc. A lot of second half pushes happening across the NBA now that we're post All-Star break. It's the perfect time to download FanDuel and get started. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, welcome back. Third and final segment here of Locked On Tigers. So we're talking about Scopey. You know, again, I just want to reiterate, just he's gonna be better than last season. And you know what? If I'm wrong and he's not better than last season, then he will be off the team. And I think that that's the transition into what to expect out of him this season. That comment we talked about with Harris earlier, I think affects Jonathan Schoop a lot more than people realize. Jonathan Scoop's already on the team, and this team wants to earmark at bats. If he is struggling again, he will get DFA'd. He's on an expiring deal. And if he struggles for the first 2 months of the season, that's over a season of sample size for poor hitting. And again, expiring deal. He's not going to have any trade value if he struggles at the plate again. They will DFA him. And I don't even think he's going to have that short of a leash. I don't think it's going to be June and we're going to be like, oh, is now the time? I think if he struggles and we're 2 months into this thing, it's going to be see you later. And so that's one side of the coin that is definitely worth bringing up. The other side is that if he does really well, he will get traded. I don't see a reality in which Jonathan Schoop is on this team on August 1st. I really don't. And that makes me a little sad. I'm a very sentimental person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And like, this is Jonathan Scoop's 4th season as a Detroit Tiger already. Can you believe that? That is crazy. I remember when we brought him in and like obviously then the COVID season happened and whatnot, but that's so wild to me. This is his 4th season, 2020, 21, 22, 23. That's so crazy to me. And so I greatly appreciate the time he gave us. And he was one of the best players on a team that was very, very brutal to watch. And I will always be appreciative of him and respect the heck out of him for that. But this is it. This is it. It comes to an end this season. I don't think he makes it through the season, no matter how good he does. Again, if he does really well, if he's playing solid defense and the offense is back around to his career averages, he's going to get traded to a contender that needs some help up the middle at the deadline. And if he really struggles again, then he's going to get DFA'd, and they're going to give Nick Maton a lot of looks at second base, or they're going to see if even like Matt Vierling can play second, or if, I don't know, throw Henry Malloy over there. Probably not that, but like the reason that they have acquired so much depth is so that whatever happens to the starters, whether it's an injury, whether it's a DFA, whether it's a trade, they have a move. That's the whole point of having depth. They have something they can go to. No longer are the Al Avila or even Dave Dombrowski days where there is just no backups or plan Bs for like any positions. Now, Dave's plan Bs were to just trade for someone, and they worked, and he won. Not trying to compare Dave to Al in any sense, but just something to keep in mind there is if you're going to get super frustrated and like Jonathan Schoop, this contract extension sucks, whatever, he's going to be gone soon then if we get to that point. So that is my biggest thing is I think I don't see a reality in which he's on the team after the trade deadline. I really don't, no matter what his performance is. I hope that he does well. I hope that we're playing competitive baseball. I hope that he's doing well, because if he does well, that means that we're going to get assets right at the deadline. But as far as long-term goes, again, like Harris said it himself, he's looking for people that have a lot of years of control and is looking for people that are going to be a part of the long-term plan past 2023. Wow, I just said that year totally wrong. Past 2023. And no matter how good Jonathan Schoop does this season, he doesn't fit that bill of team control past this year. And even if he did on top of that, he's not really the type of hitter that Scott Harris formulates teams around. He doesn't have a high walk percentage. He is, I don't want to say a free swinger, because, again, he doesn't actually strike out that much, but it is not the work the count, high walk guy that Harris wants to build this team around. So that's, again, that's my biggest thing with Schoop. And that's really the biggest and only main point I really have, because, again, he's going to be better than last year. It's impossible to be worse. And he's not going to be like a career best year either. So he's going to fall somewhere in between there. It's going to happen. That's great. I'm glad. And I think just his future with the team is more. Now, the only really other conversation around him is just what position he's going to play. A lot of people have been talking about the potential of him at third, moving him around the infield. I don't see it. I think that, not that he doesn't have the ability to, and not that they might not experiment with some stuff in spring training, but I don't know. I think that he's the second baseman of this team. His value is best when he has played second base for his entire career, and they're trying to maximize his production and his value, and I think that is him playing second base, especially with just how many options you have at third now. I don't really see the need to make Jonathan Schoop play third. Like, you have like 7 dudes that you could, Kreidler, Maton, Vierling, like Henry Malloy. Like we've talked about it at length this offseason. I don't see any need for him to play any other position besides second. First base, I guess maybe. I think that you'd rather use some of the other depth you have at first too, honestly. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the player preview involving Schoop. He will be better, and this is his last year as a Detroit Tiger. And I don't expect him to make it through the entire season. Hopefully for good. Hopefully I would love nothing more than to send him to a contender in July and have him kind of come off of a really bad year last year just by a really solid year where he can play some competitive baseball in September and October. That would be awesome, and he would deserve it. So that's all I got. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. For your next listen, check out the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Okay, I think that'll do it. I think that's all I got. We will be back tomorrow, obviously, talking some more about We'll have a different player to preview, and we will be talking about the news and notes from camp from Tuesday. Well, Monday and Tuesday. Cool? I appreciate y'all greatly. I felt a little like scatterbrained again in this episode, kind of all over the place. So I hope it was decent radio. If not, I will be better tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. And I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.